Hi, I'm Bonnie Cox. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Joe Davis County in the far northwest corner of Illinois, just across the Mississippi from Dubuque, Iowa. I'm here today with League members from Cedar Rapids and Dubuque, Iowa. We've been meeting monthly after deciding last June to pursue the organization of an Upper Mississippi River Region Interleague Organization, an ILO. Many of you may be aware of other interleague organizations like the Lake Michigan Region ILO or the Bay Area ILO in California. These are formal league organizations recognized by the League of Women Voters of the U.S. They operate under the natural resources positions of the National League. They have regular meetings and officers. Their bylaws were approved by their respective state boards and member leagues. At least 2/3 of the local leagues, representing at least 2/3 of the total league membership in their respective regions, approved their bylaws, therefore becoming member leagues of the ILO. These ILOs have been established because their members recognize the need to work together at the regional level to most effectively and responsibly solve problems that transcend political boundaries. The natural resource issues facing us in the Upper Mississippi River Basin definitely transcend such boundaries.
We have three versions of the watershed game. There's three versions. There's the stream version, there's a lake version, and there's a big river version, and they flow into one another. And what we're trying to do with the watershed game is work with elected and appointed public officials, community leaders, just residents. Dean's working a lot with kids down in Dubuque. And so we're working with a wide array of audiences to get them thinking about what impacts various land uses have on water quality and to some extent quantity. So on the game board we have up here, we have residential land use, a farmland land use, forest, and city. Well, it's the farmer's fault. That's why we've got problems with phosphorus or sediment or something like that. What we do with the watershed game is we want them to maybe get out of their comfort zone and have some residential people represent the farmland land use on this and start thinking about what farmers do and why they might do that. And then what best management practices they can purchase as a farmer to start mitigating the negative impacts that we see from these land uses.
Hi, I'm Beth Baranski, another member of the steering committee for the proposed ILO. The national, state, and many local leagues have adopted positions to protect natural resources. Planning, policy, and management issues related to natural resources often extend beyond our tidy political boundaries, and watershed areas provide logical boundary alternatives. This map illustrates the boundary of the proposed ILO, and I would like to thank Don Lumen of the State Geological Survey for creating it for us. The U.S. Geological Survey has divided and subdivided the United States into hydrological units. The units are nested within each other, from the largest geographic drainage area to the smallest. The largest units are called regions, and the nation is divided into 21 regions. The area depicted here is the Upper Mississippi River region. The border encloses a basin. You might imagine it as a bowl with an irregular edge of about 189,000 square miles that drains into a 1,250-mile stretch of the Mississippi. That portion extending from its source at Lake Itasca in northern Minnesota down to its confluence with the Ohio River. The basin includes major portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois, and smaller portions of South Dakota, Missouri, and Indiana. The basin has a primarily urban population and primarily agricultural landscape. 80% of the population lives in urban areas, while over 60% of the land is in cropland and pasture. Water quality issues like stormwater management, nutrient loss, and phosphorus in the dead zone, habitat degradation, and groundwater contamination affect us all. Over 80 local leagues, 86, have been identified within this boundary. I hope you'll join us so we can coordinate our efforts to address natural resource issues in the Upper Mississippi River region.
So as you said, we're doing it differently this year, and usually have 1 or 2 speakers, and we have 15. And we gave them a challenge to take all the things that they want to tell everybody in this room and condense it to 5 minutes, accompanied by 20 images. That's really hard. And I want to thank the presenters not only for their time today, but for accepting that challenge. I think it's going to be exciting. I hope that these presentations will stimulate our conversations today and tomorrow and possibly lead to collaborations after the symposium. So it's going to be kind of fast-paced. We'll see how this goes. We're going to start with Laura. So if you want to come up to the podium.
I'm the first guinea pig.
You're the first one.
Okay, since I was the first one up here, I thought I might need some illustration of what this actually means to be a partner with somebody. It means that you aren't always focused on yourself. And so I think in our society, actually it's great because we know that this conference is really focused on partnership and collaboration, but there are so many potential partners out there. If we work with them, we have an opportunity to do so much more than just the project. We could actually affect system change, which is what we really like to see. So individually we should be working, but also as partners, with our partners. So this is a real story. This is the city of Elkader in northeast Iowa. Much like any other city along a big river these days in the Driftless area, devastation with flooding. And so they tried to think about really, why is it flooding? And they said, well, because rivers flood. Well, who's impacted? Just the people in the floodplain, really. They shouldn't have built there. And government, they should bail us out. So they really focused on those specific answers instead of actually looking at the real story. They said, what's the solution? Well, it's just, sandbag. In fact, Iowa City in northeast Iowa spends $4 million in one flood event, in one rainfall event, sometimes sandbagging. So what should they have looked at? Well, they should have said, communities other than ourselves are also being devastated by flooding. And we're actually having 100 or 500-year floods annually. We have the same amount of rainfall every year, but it's coming in greater amounts. And the hydrology of the watershed has really changed. Stream banks are eroding, soil and nutrients are being lost, conservation practices are being destroyed, taxes are going up, county roads and bridges are being destroyed. And the people who's impacted? Really everybody. And so who's responsible? Well, it's not just the people in Elkader or the people in one community, but it's people throughout the watershed. And working together, we probably could make something happen. But individually, Elkader couldn't do that by themselves. What we've done in the past is said, well, we're going to have FEMA come in and buy out the houses, and we're going to build higher levees, and we're actually going to spend a lot of money fixing those roads and bridges, which are going to be washed out again in a couple of years. Instead of doing that, this past couple of years, the Turkey River Watershed Management Authority was formed, and Elkader is one of the community members of that. And it's really a creative collaboration that hasn't happened before in Iowa. Here's Elkader right there. And they said, we can't fix this flooding problem by ourselves. We're going to join the Turkey River Watershed Management Authority along with 23 communities, 7 soil water conservation districts, and 5 boards of supervisors, county boards of supervisors. And those folks all come together. Our organization helps lead that discussion, and they're developing a plan to reduce flooding and improve water quality. And to do that, all those people have decided, we can't do this on our own. We can each do something, though. And so they're not just developing the plan, but the plan is actually a plan of what they're going to do. So it's not just what they think someone else should pay them to do, but we actually broke this watershed board up into committees: fisheries, education, the soil and water commissioners, producers, producer groups, all different committees. And each of those committees says, this is what we will do. So the engineers say, we will do something. We will actually start controlling things differently within the watershed. We will manage things differently. We will adopt policy. And indeed, all boards of supervisors have adopted new policy to think differently about how they spend their money. Let's quit putting in bigger culverts, right? So we want to reduce flooding. We want cleaner water. And somebody asked me, how are you going to measure whether or not you do that? And I said, well, will we have reduced flooding? Will we actually have cleaner water? Will we actually have policy change? So we actually want to measure it. So the Watershed Management Authority said, yes, we have measures of success. There will be actual measures. So I told you about this group, the Watershed Management Authority, over a 1 million acre watershed that they're working in. But actually, that's a silo too. We don't just want to focus on ourselves. There's an opportunity here to think, you know what, the Driftless area, a much larger area, may be having the exact same problems we are. And so, as Beth mentioned, or Jeff mentioned, recently, People from throughout the Driftless area came together. Trout Unlimited helped unite us, and we submitted a regional conservation proposal to NRCS USDA for funding. It wasn't funded, I hate to tell you, but that doesn't mean we won't keep trying, because the partnership and the opportunity is there. And if we take it together, we can make a bigger difference. We can change systems. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robin Cash, a member of the League of Women Voters in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. We're supporting the formation of this ILO because we believe it could be effective in several ways. First, we could develop educational programming to be shared among leagues in the region that would increase the public's understanding of the water issues in this region. We could coordinate our advocacy and lobbying efforts across state lines and in numerous congressional districts better to promote the collective interests of the region before Congress and the federal agencies. And third, we could monitor local, state, and regional and federal proposals that affect the interests of the region, and then distribute that information and make recommendations to the appropriate league boards for action. Thanks.
Everyone kind of has a different way of doing watershed management plans. Not all plans are equal, not all plans are alike. The engineering one was very model-based. Engineering, you do this, this, and this, and you're going to reduce your flows and your nutrient reduction by this. The planning one was very much all about planning for the watershed, and the ecological one was looking at the entire watershed, and not only looking at just water quality and models, and not just the engineering side of things, but looking at the full spectrum of really all living things in the watershed. And that to me is why we ended up choosing Applied Ecological, because we felt like their firm did a good job of looking at all aspects of it. You know, not just the water quality and flooding, which were the two big hitters, but.
I'm Tam Prenosel, President of the League of Women Voters in Dubuque, Iowa, and a member of the steering committee. We hope you agree that this ILO is a good idea and that you will discuss with your local league board whether your league wants to become a member. The League of Women Voters state boards of Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin have approved of our efforts to develop this ILO. Each board has appointed a member to serve on the proposed ILO steering committee, so that if you have a question or concern, please contact your state's steering committee member. We are sending you the name, email address, and phone numbers of these steering committee members. We are also sending you a copy of the proposed bylaws drafted by the steering committee. They give you and your board a good idea of how we anticipate the ILO would operate and what would be required of our member League of Women Voters. Several leagues have expressed concern about financial responsibilities. Please note that we are suggesting no individual member dues or PMPs. We are proposing that each local league joining the ILO pay annual dues of $25 per league. Note that the bylaws would have to be voted on and adopted at the first formal organizational meeting of the ILO. A slate of officers would also be presented and voted on at this meeting.
The Mississippi River is a river of national and international significance that supports one of the most diverse and productive large river ecosystems. The Mississippi River provides food, water, recreation, transportation, and so much more, as you will soon see. In the late 1930s, an interstate group of fishery biologists formed the Upper Mississippi River Conservation Survey Committee in response to a lack of management of the commercial fisheries. They recognized the value and need for this interagency cooperation and established the Upper Mississippi River Conservation Committee in December 1943. The UMRCC's roots are anchored in interagency cooperation to address data, policy, and management needs of the Upper Mississippi River. UMRCC's founding objectives were to determine the nature and importance of sport and commercial fisheries, to determine the importance of other wildlife resources and the factors governing their abundance, and to collect data to base recommendation for fishing regulations. The original biologists conducted a 3-year study of the fisheries to determine the effect of locks and dams on the fishery. Freshwater mussels are not only the river's barometer of health, but are also important commercially. In the early 1900s, buttons were made out of mussel shells, increasing harvest, so regulations had to be implemented. Over time, the focus of the UMRCC expanded. The environmental health of the river is tied to water quality, and the UMRCC helped to eliminate dumping of sewage into the river. In the 60s, the focus shifted to industrial pollution, and again the UMRC membership spoke out and supported the passage of the Clean Water Act in 1972. Throughout the UMRC's history, many accomplishments were connected to navigation. By the time the UMRC was established, the commercial navigation system was already in place. There were concerns about the viability of the river's ecosystem while maintaining navigation. Conflicts between natural ecosystem and navigation existed, and compromises had to be made. In the 1980s, the Great River Environmental Action Team, or GREAT, was established. Studies conducted under GREAT helped develop a plan for navigation in an environmentally sensitive way. At this time, there was controversies with 600-foot lots being converted to 1,200-foot lots. The UMRCC provided a forum for discussion and a catalyst for protection of the river. In 1986, Congress authorized an environmental management program. The UMRCC assisted in accomplishing this task. EMP provided tools needed to reverse 100 years of degradation. To date, the EMP remains one of the premier environmental restoration and monitoring programs on a large river system. Today, the UMRCC membership numbers over 200 from the states of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. It also has federal and NGO partners. New challenges will arise for the future researchers, managers, and engineers, and these challenges must be met. The future of the UMRCC will depend on the involvement and commitment of its membership. Members must learn from the past and become visionaries. Come join us on this very important and exciting adventure, because boundaries don't protect rivers, people do.
I'm Sue Wilson, Secretary of the Dubuque League of Women Voters, and also a member of the steering committee of the proposed ILO. From January 2015 through April 15th, we are attempting to reach every local league in the Upper Mississippi region. If by the middle of April the steering committee is confident that we have identified the requisite 2/3 of the local leagues and 2/3 of the total membership committed to joining the ILO, we will proceed with confirming and finalizing the plans for the first annual meeting of the ILO next June in Dubuque, Iowa. We have developed an email form for your league's board president or other representative of your local board to return to us. We hope that your form will confirm your interest in joining
the Upper Mississippi River Region, ILO. But please email it back to us even if your league has no interest in joining. Thank you for your time and attention to our proposal. We look forward to hearing from you.
Are we ready? Okay. Hello, my name is Bonnie Cox, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters. I'd like to tell you about the League and what we are currently working on to protect the natural resources of the Upper Mississippi River region. From the spirit of the women's suffrage movement came a great idea that a nonpartisan civic organization could promote active and informed citizen participation in government at all levels. The League of Women Voters was founded on that idea on February 14th, 1920, 6 months before the 19th Amendment giving women the right to vote was officially ratified. There we go. Today, the League of Women Voters is an organization of women and men working to increase understanding of major public policy issues and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. There are over 800 local and state leagues. The structure of the league, with membership at the local, state, and national level, contributes to our ability to organize and get things done at the level most appropriate and effective. In recognition of the need to work together at the regional level to solve problems that transcend political borders, interleague organizations, or ILOs, were added to the formal structure of the league in 1972. One such interleague organization is the Lake Michigan Region ILO, working primarily on natural resource issues. It coordinates the efforts of 46 local leagues in the 4 states bordering Lake Michigan. In 2013, the Lake Michigan Region ILO received a grant from the Illinois Coastal Grants Program to promote the ILO's environmental education program, Stormwater from the Ground Up. This program, with emphasis on green infrastructure, helped individuals, communities, and regions identify what they can do to prevent and alleviate flooding. Although Joe Davis County, Illinois, and Dubuque, Iowa, don't border Lake Michigan, stormwater management is a big issue for both communities. Last June, members of the Lake Michigan ILO presented the stormwater program to our communities. Seeing the value of interleague cooperation, leagues from Dubuque, Joe Davis County, Cedar Rapids, and LaCrosse organized a steering committee to begin developing an Upper Mississippi River Region ILO to deal with natural resource issues in our region. This map shows the boundaries of the Upper Mississippi River Basin. Currently, our ILO committee is contacting the 86 local leagues within this region and inviting them to join the ILO. With the League's 95 years of experience lobbying and advocating, we see the chief benefit of what we've efficiently named the UMR being the ability to amplify the voices of our citizens across dozens of congressional districts. Until our ILO is officially recognized by the U.S. League, we can't lobby or advocate in the name of the ILO. But in the meantime, we are working together. Today's keynote presentations were organized by the ILO Steering Committee. We were also partners in a grant application that Laura spoke about, seeking funds for water quality projects from the NRCS. Our leagues contributed an education component. Leagues across the country, in all regions, engage their fellow citizens, including the voters of tomorrow, in learning about the natural resource issues unique to their regions. With our long tradition of studying issues and coming to consensus before taking a stand, we commit to gathering accurate information, making evidence-based decisions, and promoting science-based stewardship. With a dedication to active but nonpartisan participation in government, leagues worked effectively across party lines and within coalitions to bring people together and get them engaged in solving local problems. Leagues promote public-private partnerships. This abandoned well sealing project resulted when a local league found a private donor to supplement existing public funds and promoted the program. We look forward to continued and expanded work on natural resource issues within the Upper Mississippi region. Why not join us? Just Google "Join the League of Women Voters" to find the local league closest to you.